What's going on, everybody? BobbyFi and Eric Sheetshaber. We're going to be talking through briefly the early slate, and then we'll talk about the main slate. The early slate's only a small 4-gamer, and it's just I always try to remind everybody to try and make things different. Coming off a decent night, I made a little bit. Sheets, you did a lot. Didn't do as well as Sheets, thanks to especially the tennis win, man. But good night overall for you, and talk a little bit about that. Then we'll jump into this morning, and then we'll talk about the evening slate.
Yeah, it was fun. It's always fun when you do the late sweat and you actually have something yourself sweating. But I won the Sheets Open, which is the 400 on DraftKings, and I played a lineup that you're supposed to play with like 400,000 entries. But I played it even though there were only 70 entries. I had like a full 5-man stack against Cole Reagans, which is not the best as far as that tournament goes, but it ended up winning. And then I got second. That held, by the way. That's second in the lottery on FanDuel. That held. It's kind of a fun sweat to keep Robbie Ray off my ass, but I couldn't quite do it for first place. And then by the way, so we were sweating the end of the tennis. There was actually one match left after I thought that it was over.
Oh my God, really?
That hadn't even started yet, but it didn't matter. Nobody was within range. You know what I mean? The good thing about tennis is that it's not like the other sports. Like you're like capped. Like if you're down like 100, for example, I mean, you literally can't win. You know, right. So that was good. So we won the tennis. We won that home run. We won and we got second in the lottery. Damn good day. And today we have I did a live tennis stream earlier today as I built those lineups, and then I did and we have 2 slates today. I think the early slate is pretty reasonable, and I think that it's a very instructive slate. I think so. We'll talk about that for a few minutes. Then we'll do the main. Then we'll do golf, and I'm feeling it, by the way, Bobby. So I'm playing that big one in golf this week.
Let's go. All right.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Love it.
Well, I'm feeling it, so we'll see. And I'll be sweating it in Vegas. So it's just actually I'll be sweating on a plane probably on the way back from Vegas.
I actually have the action of somebody else who offered me a percentage of them because
nice.
Pay you. You won't. I don't even need to say who it is because you know, but it's the person who's been paying me back slowly over the last few years.
Let's go. All right.
Percentage of it. So okay. So he won a ticket to it. So we'll see.
Oh, excellent.
So hopefully we both have a sweat to you down to you two. All right. So with this morning slate, we can go about it. I think we just talk about it in general.
Well, here's the thing. All right. So there are 3 pitchers as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
There's Heaney, Minaya, and Logan Webb. Right. And Logan Webb is, you know, he's got the White Sox. Okay. And Heaney is volatile, right? So I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. I'm not into a crochet thing right now. I don't know what to do with that.
He threw 55 pitches in his last start, but he had 9 strikeouts in 4 innings and 55 pitches.
Yeah, I'm playing the slate, and I have 65% Minaya, 50% Webb, and 50% Heaney, and then like 15 of like Verlander, Crochet, and Herman or whatever. Actually, 6% Herman. So it's really those 3, but it's a really important concept. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do with the rest of your lineups? And the cool thing about it is that the Heaney spot, I mean, you really need to play Pittsburgh. Okay. So I think that you should play Heaney, but you should certainly play Pittsburgh. And I think Logan Webb is probably going to be so of the other 2, like Minaya and Webb, I think it's a little more logical to play Baltimore against Minaya if you wanted to play that way, right? Mm-hmm. Than it is to play the White Sox against Webb, which probably means that the Baltimore side of that game is going to be more popular than maybe it could be, and the White Sox are going to be probably like unowned. So if I get some White Sox on a 4-game slate, I've just seen too much in the last like 3 weeks to not play it. You know.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. I'm only playing 1 lineup, so I didn't get to the White Sox, but I think if I would have gotten to 3, then I probably would have gotten to White Sox. I actually didn't end up stacking it all in my 1 build today. I really don't. I mean, again, I think on these slates, you can go about it a bunch of different ways. I find them as very good slates to find my favorite play with low ownership at certain positions and maybe get some correlation. I still ended up with like a 3-2-1-1-1 or a 3-2-2-1. But yeah, I agree that if you're playing multiple entries, you should definitely get to some White Sox. I also, again, we always say, can you play? You don't want to look for a hitter against the pitcher, but if you have a cheap hitter against Webb, and you can still play Webb in a White Sox hitter, for example. I also thought that Houston's going to be the very chalky one. And I think that Boston may be a little bit lower owned than they should be. I don't know how many pitches Verlander's going to throw. I'm guessing not very many coming back from the injury. But also on top of that, we don't know how effective he's going to be. We've seen him come back from these things at times and look great, and we've seen him look horrible at other times, more recently. So I think that getting some Red Sox makes some sense. But for me, the team that I'm the highest on is Texas, who also is going to have some ownership. But I think the bottom of the order, you can play those guys. Jankowski's 2,100, Tavares 29, and Wyatt Langford at 3,900. I think all those guys are interesting enough. So yeah, a lot of different ways to go. But for me personally, I'm siding more with the bats from Texas, Boston, and I am probably going to, because my one lineup, I'm going to probably play the chalky Webb, and I actually am okay playing Heaney. I would be worried about the Manaea chalk if I was going to be playing more entries. I would be way over on Webb. I would just be way high on Webb, and then I would probably spread out from most of the other pitchers because I don't feel that Manaea is great enough to where his expected results should be as high as even the projections have him. So I actually like Baltimore on the other side of that one, but I agree with you. People are probably going to get to Baltimore where they're not getting to him, although not quite enough in my opinion. So I think Baltimore, some combination of Baltimore, Texas, and Boston would be what I would be doing.
So you would be proud of me.
Yeah,
I am playing 50 lineups in this early slate.
Yep.
I have a total of 153 stat.
Oh, well, let's go. Sheets is changing his colors a little bit today.
I didn't do anything. I just what I got. Yeah. But but this is a little bit bizarre. But I'm getting 34% 5-2s for some reason, and 153, and then I'm getting all kinds of Bobby stacks here. I got a 2-2-2-2. I have a 2-2-1-1-1. But we're gonna see if I actually have it in me to hold that later on, like because there is a late swap, couple of late swap windows. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to see if I actually hold that both at 2 o'clock. There's a 2 o'clock swap window and then I guess a 3:30 swap window.
Yeah.
And we don't have the lineups yet for White Sox San Francisco anyway.
Right.
So we'll
just theoretically, just in game theory standpoint, it does mean that they're probably going to be a little bit lower owned, and they're already going to be lower owned because people don't really want to mess with Crochet and people don't really want to mess with Webb. So I think that getting some exposure to that later game is probably a good idea in addition to the teams I mentioned.
Well, I will say this, by the way, and again, I think this is probably a good idea that if you need some juice and you have Logan Webb in that late game and you need to up it, I would certainly swap to Crochet.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, like you said, I mean, Crochet can put up 20 in 4 innings if need be. It's like.
And what's even crazier about that is 4 innings and 55 pitches. That's just, I don't even know how you strike out 9 guys in 55 pitches. That's like an incredible thing to do.
So my question is, who's going to get this guy? The Yankees or the Dodgers? Which one?
I think that's the guy that they're going to build around or try to at least. That's what I mean. Again, I don't know who else they're gonna use to build around him, but he's the guy I think that they definitely want to build around, and that's why they're saving him.
Well, I mean, it's like the strength up the middle. As long as they have Crochet and Corey Lee, I mean, the franchise is just poised for success.
There you go. All right, do you want to jump in and we'll pull up your screen and go through the main slate?
Yes. So how am I going to do this? All right. So I know what I'm going to do. Just give me a second.
While you do your thing, I'll just quickly make an announcement. I did announce that we were raising packages. Well, we have one extra day because we had our one of our guys who helps run all of our pricing stuff who was in air all day yesterday. So he's home now, and we're probably going to do it sometime this evening. So if you are interested in any of the packages, I suggest you try and get in on them now because we will be making a small raise. Of course, I also remind you guys in a few weeks we'll have an NFL promo.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is like an amazing question that I have to ask. I mean, that I'm actually asking. How much is it?
They're all different. We have all different packages, so it depends on which ones you're talking about. So
what's the big one? Like what's like everything included?
The big one is the SaberSim Ultimate, which is like the everything package. So we're actually only charging $3 more than they are, but it's $2.99 a month. But it's the SaberSim package with everything, and that is one that we are not planning to raise for what it's worth.
Okay.
But you know, and the other one, we've got the SaberSim Starter, which is exclusive, you know, exclusive with us. That's going to be $79 instead of $69 a month. The SaberSim Advanced would be $119 a month, and the SaberSim Pro is $149 currently. It will be $159. So
somebody came into the Discord when I was doing the tennis thing and said that they wanted to thank me because they did one of the things that in my videos they implemented and got like third in the lottery a couple of days ago or something like that. And I was commenting that I was curious which part of what I recommend he was implementing. And I was saying that if it's, you know, if you're trying to access my total blessed run good, that's like the real premium package. You know,
right.
If you want to get in on that, I mean, like that's got to be, we're gonna have to put a raise on that one. It's just you have to toggle a special button on SaberSim to access the Sheets run good. But you know, we'll put up a good pricing package for that soon.
Nice. I like it. I know the idea isn't for us to buy it, but you actually made me some money on Stake Kings last night. So
nice.
That was a nice one for nice little shout out for the Stake King stuff. That was great.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. So jumping into this evening slate, we'll go game by game here. I guess as an overall, I think there's going to be. I think the pitching outside of Flaherty is going to be somewhat spread out. That's just, I guess that's what I would say. And yeah, I might like a few of the stacks that maybe people don't so much today. And honestly, the hitting looks a little spread out, which is it's a 10-game slate, so I understand it. But another one where I'm not all that worried about ownership aside from maybe one team.
So before we get into it, I have one other thing, just only because you brought it up. Now I have to talk about it. I had an idea for Stake Kings it was like a year or two ago, but sometimes it happens by accident, but I'm thinking of doing it on purpose. So sometimes I like forget to post something, and then like I just see the slate locks. I'm like, oh shoot. So what I'll sometimes do is I'll just like say, you know what, I'll give everybody an extra half an hour or whatever. So I just kind of post, even though lock at 11, I'll put like 11:30 up there. I mean, what the hell's the difference? And I thought to myself, like, well, it does give them the opportunity, like for some spots, to see who we have, you know, and how they're doing, like beforehand, whatever. But then part of me is like, you know what? That's kind of an interesting way to think about it. Maybe I'll do that one day. I'll post like an hour like after the slate locks and let people try to analyze it and see if they're playing or not. You know? And
yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. One other thing that I'm planning on doing for NFL this year is a lot of the late swap content. I'm planning on doing like a half-hour show at 3 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be a little bit early to be swapping, but it'll give me time to swap afterwards. But to sort of go through just how the late swapping works and all that stuff. And I think it's really important for football and basketball in general. So I'd like to get going on some of that stuff. So I'm going to run some of those things out for football.
Yeah, for the main slate today, it's weird. I'm looking at projection on the other page. I have two pitchers that are sort of. We'll get to them. We'll go game by game, obviously. But two pitchers that kind of stand out. But it's not the guys I usually think of. So we'll have to see. So I have to see if I can look at two pages at the same time, because I want to look at my stat page and my projection page at the same time.
If it's easier for you, I'm happy to do that.
No. It's totally fine to do it this way, but I just need to make sure to look at it on the other side. Stacks will go over here. Oh, perfect. Okay, sounds good. All right, ready? What's the first one? Cleveland, New York?
Cleveland, New York. Start us off with it's Cortez and Quintillo, and I've got to remind myself every time that you don't hate Cortez.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of a tough-ish matchup for Cortez, I guess. I'm not really he's definitely not in my top two. Let me see if he's in the top one. Yeah, I mean he's okay. I mean I'm like 6th or 7th, something like that. He's not the worst play I've ever played, but it's not like priority or anything like that. With respect to the hitting, what I would have expected to see the Yankees show up a little bit more, but I'm not. I guess that Cleveland bullpen. You know what? That's not true. I do have the Yankees. Okay, so I have them. I have one team that's above everybody else, as they always are, and then I have another team. No, and then I have the Yankees actually second, just as far as like raw points go. I don't have them projected to be particularly cheap, which is why I'm not getting to that much of it. But yeah, I guess the Yankees are reasonable enough. I mean, again, tough matchup with the bullpen and all that stuff, but Cantillo can't be that great. So Yankees fine, Cortez fine, but neither a priority for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out why this doesn't look like a better thing for the Yankees. I understand that Cantillo was better in the minors in a very limited sample size and hasn't been great in the majors in a pretty small sample size. I really don't understand, though. It's overall just that you have a lefty against the Yankees, and it just seems like a spot where we want to play the Yankees again. You have a little bit of wind blowing out to right. I think it's a good spot, and I will probably be way over on the Yankees. I just can't imagine by the time the slate locks, the Yankees aren't a little more popular. I know they're expensive in some spots in the bottom of that order. Obviously, if they did anything last night, I think I would have won the tournament. But I mean, I definitely would have, but I actually should say, because I almost won anyway. I like the Yankees. I think this is a very easy, clear priority. And I think this is probably – I actually think the projection is right. They've got them at 5 runs, and that's what Vegas has. And I just don't understand why they wouldn't be more popular. I guess it's maybe because people are playing Flaherty and it's hard to afford them. That's my only logical explanation. And I have Cortez as a guy. The Cleveland does strike out a little more against lefties than they do against righties, but it's still not a very high number. So Cortez with a look, if you want to get creative, I don't think I would stack Cleveland, but I certainly wouldn't be Xing out Cleveland players if I got to them. So, but I've got him as an option, not as a priority. All right, moving on to Cincinnati, Toronto, with Rodriguez and Martinez.
I actually, when I put everything together, not with ownership really, but just the combination of upside value and all that stuff, I actually have Cincinnati as one of the top 2 stacks on the board today. Yeah, and then I do have Toronto as decent value also. So I like both sides of this game. Cincinnati, I mean, seriously, literally one of the top 2 stacks for me, and then some Toronto also, and neither pitcher.
Yeah, I love Toronto. I'm actually if you're playing 150, I think that getting some Rodriguez makes sense. I think it's a decent enough matchup. We've seen, look, Cincinnati away from Cincinnati is there's not as much firepower. They are going to be low owned today, so I understand going after them. I don't mind it. I personally am more on the Toronto side, and I'm honestly really surprised by the Toronto total being only at 4 against Nick Martinez. So I'm on Toronto. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to narrow my stacks again because there's a lot of guys I like. And for what it's worth, Martinez has been really good lately, or much better lately. But I still am going to play the long-term results. And I know they scored a bunch yesterday, so maybe you want to say get off of them. But they've got, when your cleanup hitter's 2,400 and a top prospect, and Kirk behind him's only 34. They've got some cheap things. Varsho and Springer still feel a little bit cheap. Just feels like a reasonable stack to go after. So I have Toronto behind the Yankees, but certainly up there. And I'm flirting with the idea of Yariel Rodriguez, but I'm not overly excited about it. All right. Philadelphia, Atlanta.
I have Nola and Fried as part of this kind of, second tier of pitchers that I like today.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like both of them. As far as, I can't imagine I'd want to stack either of these guys. Let me just double check. No, not really. So, I mean, I do have Philly way down the list. It's just barely scratching its nails to try to get out of the pit, But that's about it. Just Nolan, Fried, very reasonable secondary options, and that's what I have.
So I'm going to point out that there's a pretty big sample size here with Fried against. Fried is good against everybody. I look at all of his numbers against every team, and he's pitched more against Atlanta than he's pitched against anybody, and they have completely owned him.
Really?
Yeah, they're literally hitting 320 off of him in 220 at bats. The strikeouts are down around 24, 25%. the massive power numbers. Real Muto and Castellanos will be the ones who everyone's talking about for the Real Muto 16 for 42 with 4 home runs off of him. That's there's a lot of guys who look pretty good here, and it's mostly Trey and Trey Turner also. He's 17 to 43 with 3 home runs off of him. So I think this is a spot where I could, again, I like too many other stacks right now, and I never stack against Fried, but I'm considering it a little bit. And I also think Nola is being, I don't know what to think with Nola, to be honest with you. I initially thought, okay, well, that's the easy way to get different on this slate. And I just don't understand. I know he hasn't been as great lately, and maybe that's what it's about. But I thought I would think Nola against an Atlanta team that's sort of been hit or miss lately. It's not quite as good a hitting weather as yesterday. I think I can talk myself into Nola here at low ownership a little bit before Fried. I don't think I'm going to get to the Fried today because of these numbers, and I do think I'm going to consider Philly at least as a mini stack with some of those guys. Philly's been really good against lefties this season, so that's pretty much what I've got. But I think the Nola is a good way to get different for a guy who's probably got like the highest pitch count upside of anybody. Well, he and Fried are probably pretty similar. But so I'm thinking about Nola for sure. All right, Milwaukee, St. Louis.
Yeah. So what do I have here?
Gibson.
I imagine both these guys are going to be in the second tier at best. Yeah. But I will say that I do have Gibson as a playable second tier option. That's where I'll leave that. It's not usually the type of player I'll play. And I just seem to recall him being more like 6,500. If you want to know the truth, but I mean he looks all right. What's it? Tobias Myers. He was deemed the leader of the free world a few starts ago, wasn't he? I don't know what the story with him.
Why people? Yeah, we talked about it. He has just a terrible minor league. Now I just don't understand what he just had a good couple starts. I think.
I don't know, but so I don't really like too much of this game at all. I mean, none of the hitting, none of the pitching.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't throw out the tag. I said that about Tobias Myers, and then I'm actually considering him today. So, look, the low ownership is something that's a little bit interesting. We've seen the ceiling from him. I'm not overly afraid to attack St. Louis. I'm not overly afraid to play Gibson on the other side. Both of them just fit into a category of guys. Well, maybe maybe I'll go there. It's only 74 degrees in St. Louis, not one of these crazy hot days. A little bit of wind blowing in. And look, if you're getting creative with it, I think both these stacks at low ownership are in play, but I don't want to overwhelm myself with the stacks that I like. So maybe they end up on the outside looking in because I like a lot of other ones, but I certainly wouldn't fault anybody for taking a shot against either of these pitchers. I also wouldn't. It's a 4-pronger, but none that are especially exciting for me. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Oh, so this is actually very interesting. This Detroit-Chicago game, because it reminds me to talk about something. So we talk about value added, and we're pumping up the site a little bit today. I asked about the prices and all this stuff, and again, one of the things that I keep forgetting to stress is that this is not just look. We have very differing styles, Bobby and me, but we feed off each other really, really well, and still I respect his just raw like baseball and sports takes like more than anybody, and I still adjust like all my stuff, and every once in a while I'll make a pretty big move as a result of it, basketball, all the sports. And yesterday I was getting like 1,000,000% Detroit, no matter what I did. And we went over this live, and Bobby was telling me all day, it's like, you can't deal with this wind. I mean, it's just he didn't say it was a stupid thing to do, but I can read between the lines, right? Bobby will never say anything's a stupid thing to do to me. But I can read between the lines. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just X out Detroit. And I honestly don't know what would have happened if I kept them in. I don't know if getting them out got me to all these lineups that did well for me. It's very possible. I mean, I could go back and double check it, but again, it's not just about just running the stuff and just like blasting it away. I mean, you can be a human being and make some adjustments. Yeah. Now, the funny thing is what I did was that the first thing I did was I just X'd out like the stacks from Detroit. And then I was looking, I was going through whatever. I'm like, ooh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to X out the Chicago stacks too. So I X'd out Chicago stacks too. But then when I X'd out the stacks, I forgot, not I forgot, but I didn't X out the whole team. I just X'd out the stacks. I'm like, oh my God, should I have X'd out the whole team? And it turns out that my big hero sort of in that lottery tournament was that I got the one off Danby Swanson home run into the wind.
That's right. That's right.
It's pretty funny, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a long way of saying I don't like anything in this game. I have neither team even showing up at all. I have Detroit as like 5th best point per dollar value or something like that, as they always might look like. But I'm not really getting to either of the pitch. Oh my God, are you going to? I'm trying to think if you're going to tell me to play Jameson Taillon. Well, I'll stop by saying I don't want to play anybody, and let's see what you have to say here.
Yeah, I like Taillon a little bit. Hey, look, Assad was really good yesterday. He was great on DraftKings. He was very valuable guy to have, and I had enough of him to where he was in at least a couple of my good lineups. So here's the way I would put it: if Kenta Maeda starts, which he's not going to, they keep doing this opener thing. I don't trust what they do with how they do the long relief thing. So we've seen it, twice with Maeda, 3 times overall in the past 10 games, maybe even a little more, maybe 3 out of the last 15. Where they do this opener nonsense. And I mean, I don't even think it's like anything wrong with it from a baseball strategy standpoint, but it's irritating because you really don't know. Maeda did not end up pitching in that situation twice when he was projected. And he was like 15% owned or 20% owned or something like that on one of those slates where he literally didn't even get in the game. So I am not going to play that roulette thing. But if he happens to start at 5K, I have to at least consider him in a wind blowing in game in Wrigley. Taillon with the wind blowing in, I think, is a little bit overpriced, but I think it's a good hit situation. It's Detroit with wind blowing in. I think Taillon is definitely going to be at least in a couple lineups of mine tonight, just because I mean, like you got one of the lower totals on the slate against him. He's not like fantastic, but he can go out there and put up 20, and he's got a reasonable price tag. And I don't think there's a huge amount of risk in this matchup. So I do have Taillon as a guy who I'm definitely considering today. I like him better, for example, at the moment than I do Nestor Cortez, who's a little bit more expensive. And raw points, I think I like Taillon a little bit better. Cortez higher ceiling, Taillon I think gets there more often. All right, Angels in KC, the one game that might have the ownership.
Well, so KC once again. I mean, every day, every day they're the best projecting, highest owned team in the league. It's and this time they actually project the most raw points, and not just value. And this is the actual same Johnny Cueto, huh?
Who hasn't pitched in forever. And to talk about a guy having tricks, nobody has more tricks than Johnny Cueto. Have you watched him pitch ever?
Is he the guy that you told me about that pitched in Japan?
He pitched everywhere, but what he does is that's weird is that he'll change his delivery. Like sometimes he'll go really quick pitch and he'll do the fast delivery, and then he does this really long wind up thing where he just keeps the hitters off a little bit. Always been annoying to stack against, is I guess my point.
Yeah, but people are going to do it today.
Oh, for sure. That's going to happen.
And is he a lefty or a righty? He's a righty. So basically, Bobby Witt has like a 20-point floor tonight. Is that the story?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets on base at all, he's probably going to get to third, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so Casey's looking to be the top stack, and they're looking to be the highest owned. And as usual, that's on you to figure out whether you're supposed to play the chalk stack or not. And they certainly project the best. Angels on the other side, I have as best value, actually, if you want to know the truth. So we'll do what worked for me yesterday, I suppose. The full-on game stack of Kansas City, LA. And by the way, Kansas City, don't be afraid to get to these other guys like Fermin. What's his name? Even Isbell when he plays, you know what I mean? He's okay down at the bottom of the order. So don't just have to, you don't just have to play Perez and Witt, whoever's and Garcia, whoever's batting first or whatever. You can play some of these other guys. And the Angels guys are all kind of live, even Neto has power. He had at least one home run yesterday, maybe two.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Neto is going to be. I've been saying for a while this guy's going to be a stud, and he's been playing really well.
He only got the guy. I'll tell you, was a real struggler last night. I think Drury had like 5 strikeouts or something. Drury struggled, but listen, this whole game can in this stadium it can go off. So I do like it, but again, the ownership is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I did want to point out that there's it's only 8 miles an hour. It's nothing like crazy, but it's blowing in from right field. So maybe if you wanted to give any sort of a bump, maybe the righties in this game. And I think that both sides of it make plenty of sense. But the problem is there aren't that many, like Taylor Ward and Zach Neto. Yeah, those are the good righties. I just don't want to play guys like Rendon and Drury. It just feels like they're just taking up a spot in your lineup that you have no reason to be playing them. And I think that's the way I'm going to treat this same situation. I like the Bobby Witt, Massey at the top, Perez. I do like the Royals, but they're going to be the one team that you're going to have to worry a little bit about ownership with. Even still, it's not like an egregious amount. And again, Drury and guys like that are looking like they're going to be popular again. I just am not playing these guys, and it really hasn't hurt me at all. Drury's hitting 160 with 1 home run this season, and Anthony Rendon has hit 220, hasn't hit a home run in 5 years. Like I don't see why I need to play this nonsense when there's actual real players on the slate. So I'll avoid those types of plays, but I am a little bit interested in the KC, and I'm a little bit interested in Ward and the top of the Angels, or Ward Neto specifically. But I'm sticking with mostly righties, just because that even that 8 miles an hour wind just makes it a little bit harder for those lefties to get those balls out of there. You don't want to see those warning track balls that would be home runs. All right, Pepio and Spence in Oakland.
So Tampa scored a total of 1 run in 2 games in Oakland. That was not on everybody's bingo card, I don't think. I do have Tampa like 4th best value, not a big deal really. But the real value here is in the pitching. And as I mentioned, I don't usually pull up my sheets and get Ryan Pequot as one of the top options on the slate all too often. But that's the way we are. That's where we are today. I have him tied, and we'll get to Flaherty in a second, but basically tied with him as far as top play, and that's probably going to be the chalk. I imagine it's a weird chalk parity. If you want, I haven't seen that in a while, but he looks pretty good. But I don't know, man. These Oakland guys. I don't know. I think this seems like fishy chalk, if you ask me. So he does project to be one of the top 2, but I don't know about this. And on the other side, Spence, 6,500. He's right there. I have him better than. Pretty much the same point per dollar as a lot of these guys. So, Spence, Pequot, Oakland as a weird bit of leverage. I don't know. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I actually think it's kind of alarming and shocking that Pepio is not so far and away the.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I don't understand it. Pepio is an unbelievably good pitcher, by the way. He's not. This is not like some nothing thing. Maybe I'm a little biased because I know him from the Dodgers, but Pepio's been very, very, very good this year. And yeah, you have to worry about his pitch count at times. That can be an issue. It seems to be a little bit fluid with what they let him throw. It's somewhere between 80 and 100. Or actually even over 100 recently. This guy he hasn't given up anything he just pitched against Arizona, Cleveland, and the Yankees and was putting up numbers. I don't understand why he's not projecting better today. It really makes no sense to me. I actually would have thought that he and Flaherty would be pretty close today.
Well, I have them even pretty much.
Really, I'm looking at the projected ownership at.
I don't mean the just raw points, but as far as value goes, I have them be identical. And then as far as ownership, I have Flaherty 40 and Pepio 30. It's not that bad.
I think Flaherty's going to end up more like 70 or 65 or something.
Oh, okay. Right.
But that's what Saber has right now, and that's a little bit what I sort of thought when I looked at the slate. But it could be wrong. Pepio, I think, is such I love Pepio.
I don't know, Bobby. I think Cortez will get ownership. I think he'll get ownership. I think Nola will get ownership. I think Fried will get ownership. I think all these guys.
Cortez versus Cleveland. So you have the best strikeout matchup in baseball for Flaherty, and you have one of the best 3 or 4 maybe the 4th best matchup in baseball against Oakland. Just feels, and I'm looking at their strikeout props. They're the only ones above 6, and Flaherty's at 7.2 or whatever. So that's my take. I do understand the Spence thing with how inept this offense has been since they, the trade deadline. They're rebuilding and all that stuff. I'm still tempted to go after it. Maybe I'm being stubborn and I just want my money back from playing them because they're the sort of the one missing thing from my last 2 nights, because I would have done really well if I just eliminated Tampa Bay. But I still kind of like them, and it is what it is. They're very cheap. We've got Caminero in there at 3,100, should be in there. DeLuca's in there, should be in there at 2,500. There's just some cheap spots there. So I'm going to go and beat my head against the wall one more time with Tampa Bay. I have Spence as an outside looking in guy on my list, but I would have no issue if anybody wanted to play him. Definitely cheap enough. And the matchup has looked like it's been like the nuts based on the last 2 starts. You had Boyle and then Estes last night just completely dominate this Tampa Bay team. Why can't Spence do the same? I get it. I'm just personally going a little bit different myself.
So we already touched on this, but Flaherty is one of the top options on the slate for all the reasons that Bobby just mentioned. I mean, he's striking people out this year. He's been finding the plate. Seattle is the perfect matchup against righties. So that's why he's the top play. Well, I mean, we could argue Pepio too, but I mean, Flaherty's definitely a top, just raw projected play. And Gilbert, I will say this, is that if in fact Gilbert outscores Flaherty and wins the slate, I'm not going to be shocked, but I'm not going to bet on it. Dodgers are just too good, so as a matter of fact, I'm getting the Dodgers as kind of like an okay play, actually. Not great, but they're certainly going to show up a little bit. And I'm sure that depending on its mood, SaberSim is going to want you to play some Seattle. Tough. It's tough. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But we'll see what I get when we get there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because and by the way, since I said that, when I first looked today, Flaherty was projected at 78 owners, whatever, 68% ownership or something. Now SaberSim's already updated it down to 43. So maybe you're right. I think Flaherty is clearly the best pitcher on this slate. I think Pepio is clearly the second best option. I understand the Gilbert thing. I am not going to get there myself.
No. You don't need to, right?
I just think there's other guys you could consider, and he's 9,500. It's not like he's like 7,500. Even if he's 7,500, I'm not sure I would get there. The Dodgers are just tough. This is a tough team, and you can get through them for so long, but they usually catches up with you at some point. I'm always going to have some Dodger exposure when they're unowned against any pitcher, really, pretty much, including I played them against Skeens earlier in the year, so I'm certainly not going to shy away from them when they're unowned. But I do like enough other stacks today where there's nowhere near a priority. So Flaherty is really the only priority for me here. So Flaherty, Pepio are the normal, top 2 with the guys you're playing in cash, in my opinion. I think Taillon and Nola are the next ones for me, just because I think they're both interesting. I'm not getting to as much Cortez. I'm not getting to as much Spence, and I have to see if they let Maeda straight start. I might go there, and my way off the board is Yariel Rodriguez. I like the Yankees. I like Toronto. I'm probably going to get some Philly bats in there if I can. The problem is they're just so expensive, and I don't like to pick on Fried, but I'm just saying he's pitched against them as much as he's pitched against anybody in baseball, and they have completely owned him. All right, so then I have the KC righties and Tampa Bay. So Yankees, Blue Jays, KC righties, and the Angel righties for that matter, and Tampa Bay, and I'm going to have to decide between those teams. So that's sort of
2-hour window for late swap here. LAKC at 8, and then 9:40 is so you have the 2 chalk pitchers going late. I know you probably people don't have it in them, but if you're sitting here with Pepio / Flaherty, you don't want to keep that unless you're good early.
Right.
Not that Gilbert Spence is better, but it's certainly going to be lower owned.
Right. Yeah, just like you said, check on how it's going. They're definitely, other than the way that you do it, there's other ways to late swap, but that's I think you gave a very clear example of like the kind of thing you would do. You can switch over to Gilbert and Spence. There's no reason they can't outscore Flaherty and Pepio, but it is
some percentage of the time. That's it.
If your lineups aren't doing well, you end up getting 50 out of those guys while the other guys get roughed around.
So here's a question. All right. So I every once in a while I'm in this position. So let's say that. All right. So it's you have the Tampa Bay Oakland game has passed. That's locked. It's now 9:50. Okay, and you're in a tournament, and you are in second place. Okay, and the payout is like 50,000 for first, and what's usually like 10,000 per second or something like that. Like 50,000 for first, 10,000 or 15,000 per second, and you are behind by a point, or 2 points or something like that. And you're sitting here with Jack Flaherty, okay? And the guy that you're at, he has one position left also, and he's got 10,500, remaining, okay? Do you stick with Flaherty knowing that you're going to be, up against him and locked in for second? Or do you go to Gilbert?
By then, I guess there's still going to be other players still in play, so it's kind of a tough one. If it was a standalone and all the games were over.
If it was standalone, that's what I'm saying. If it was standalone and over, you kind of have to go to Gilbert, right?
I think so. It depends on what the difference is in the prize pools in the tournament and all that stuff.
If it's 50 versus 10, then you probably have to.
I think you're probably right.
Then what's just more interesting, like you said, is what if there's like a whole cavalry of people behind you,
right?
That you also have to worry about.
Right.
Like, what if all of them are going to have Flaherty?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And that's why it's cool that Seaver's going to do that math for you. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's a good point. But this is the way I've got it for now. But we'll see depending on how things go later what I end up with. So. It's kind of annoying. It's a big slate, and they didn't put like great tournaments out there. It's not like the ideal tournament day. I was kind of hoping for a nice one on FanDuel and stuff, but we'll be in there anyway, and we'll be live at 6.
Dude,
and,
you know how I roll. It's all the better.
I know for you, it's like a dream. I know.
Let all the experts sit it out, whatever.
Sit out, right? And Wednesday and Thursday are usually the days they take off, so that's why you don't see the big tournaments. But all right, so we're gonna come.